Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and if you know me, you know that I really like my Pokemon, but you may also know that I've become a little bit disillusioned recently with recent efforts. I wouldn't say they're bad by any means, but I find myself slowly drifting away from the mainline Pokemon games, and that's not fun. I want to stay. I want to get really deep into them again, but they're not holding my interest like they used to. So I've decided, with all my omnipotent powers that I have, I'm going to change the Pokemon games, the main series, and let you know exactly how I'm going to change them and how it will definitely come into effect, and this isn't just a mindless wish list. This is a mindless wish list. More than a mindless wish list though, this is my opinion. This is how I want the games to be. It's not how I'm saying the games should be. I mean, ideally, yeah, obviously I want every game to be tailored to me, but that's not realistic. And at the end of the day, it's got to appeal to the many rather than the few. Me being the few, this probably isn't going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. Side note, big thanks to my friend Lewis for helping me develop some of these ideas and giving me feedback and just a sounding board as much as anything. I mean, he knows his stuff. He plays way too much Pokemon.
I play too much Pokemon.
If there's one thing I'm not, it's a liar. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Pokemon is a series that has always been extremely dear to me. I was the perfect age of just about under 10 when it first came out in the UK, and the perfect breed of just about nerdy enough to become obsessed with it, but ever so slightly in private, so it gave it even more allure. I mean, I was slightly cool at the end of the day. I wasn't cool. The first games were a triumph. It was bonkers just how much of a game they squoze onto such a tiny cartridge, and it had all the mystery of a new game with the limitations that made it slightly awkward and frustrating, but only to a point that overcoming these frustrations just made it all the more worth it. Animal Crossing still employs this idea today. That's why you can only craft one fish bait at a time, and it drives everyone mental, but everyone still plays it. The games were also a little bit tough the first time you played them, regardless of your age. Typings were spread thin. When you came across Lance's Dragonite, you had no idea what was strong or what was weak against it, because you likely didn't even know that dragon Pokemon were a thing, and whoops, it's resistant to your starter, who you've been tanking every other Pokemon with, and then you're left without it, and you've got a little tear rolling down your face. Not unreasonably difficult by any means, but oh lordy, the tension was so real. And that, in my view, is what is missing from Pokemon games today. That tension. Later entries built upon the same ideas and are by no means bad games, but they don't exist in a vacuum. Many fans are so painfully familiar with all the tropes and stylings of the older games that by now, after more than 20 years of Game Freak playing the same tune, I'm just not jumping anymore. Rival battles, gym battles, Elite Four, Champion, Legendaries, it's the same as it's always been. I mean, yeah, there have been some minor wigglings with the formula, but they didn't change nearly enough to make the games anything of a challenge or invoke any real tension. But it's nowhere near beyond saving, as we'll explore here today. Sword and Shield did quite a few things right with this idea, you know, opening things up with the wild areas and then doubling down on that with the DLC packs, you know, the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor and things like that, but there is still far too many instances of those linear, horrible, windy little routes that just deserve to die in the past. They're outdated, dull, and they drag down the experience. Just bin them. Instead, let's get something bigger, broader, more open, and I am specifically trying to avoid saying open world, because I don't think we necessarily have to go down that route. I'm thinking maybe something more akin to Xenoblade Chronicles, where large open areas are present, but smaller, more interconnected areas are just as important. We saw this a bit with the Crown Tundra, and that's a great sign, but it needs to stretch throughout the whole world. Hide special items, hide rare Pokemon, hide interesting trainer battles, make the player feel rewarded for going off the beaten track. A reason to explore and a layer of mystery adds a huge degree of wonder to a game. It's one of the reasons Breath of the Wild is still so celebrated. Despite having some fairly basic principles, they intermingle and react with one another in such a consistent manner that new things are being discovered even today. Sometimes laying everything bare isn't the best way for people to enjoy things. but make sure there's actually a payoff and it's not just random mystery like that weird girl in X and Y. And the world should be a joy to traverse. Give us some options to make moving fun, not just a means of getting from A to B. The wild areas are great, but all you ever do is ride around on your bike because that's the fastest mode of transport, and not being able to jump off land edges is absolutely horrible and painfully archaic. Again, I'm thinking kinda Xenoblade-like. There's no reason it has to be linear either. Open it up, let us run wild and free. The gym badges already give us an idea of scale. You know, the more gym badges you have, the more it opens up, and if you've only got a few gym badges and you wander into an area that's ludicrously dangerous with Pokemon that are way too powerful for you, then you're just gonna have to deal with it. I mean, it's Fallout New Vegas. It's Fallout New Vegas. A cave system guarded by a level 50 Snorlax that you can't avoid is doubtless going to stop players in their tracks, but if they're able to conquer it with lower level Pokemon, the reward of exploring a dangerous area with maybe exotic Pokemon in it early is hard to beat. And for the love of all that's good and lovely, please populate the world just a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying the number of NPCs should be like the main square in Novigrad, but have you seen how barren the supposed capital of Galar is? Makes you wonder where the hell all the people that fill the stadiums actually live. The way in which wild Pokemon were handled in Sword and Shield was largely very good, actually. I really like having the mix of Pokemon hidden in the grass and some poking out above it, but there are some things that could definitely be improved upon, the most important of which is rare and powerful Pokemon. Seeing a massive Steelix that you were totally under-equipped to deal with, you know, this way higher level than you absolutely trounce you if you try and took it on, but even though knowing it's there, you know, seeing this great big thing in the wild and knowing that you can come back to it later and you have a reason to return, it was just brilliant. What wasn't so gangbusters was that it always appeared in the same blooming place and became tired and predictable for something that was initially so imposing. The DLC packs are even more guilty of this. The originally elusive Milotic can be just found meandering around minding its business at a stupidly high level. It's exciting at first, but then when you see it respawn moments after catching it just takes all the excitement out of it. Rare and powerful Pokemon should be just that. Or at least 50% of that. They should be rare. Imagine you're in some nondescript early area that only has Pidgeys and Bidoof most of the time or something, and then suddenly you see a fully evolved Pidgeot swoop down in front of you, but should you miss it, you're unlikely to see it again. A Pidgeot's not even that exciting, and you can just get one from leveling up a Pidgey, obviously, but to see one in the wild and have it be an event, that's a really exciting idea. Fully evolved Pokemon as a whole should be a rare sight, something to relish, something to tell your friends about, not something to just be expected. And what about researching Pokemon in the wild in order to get a better chance of catching them? Whip out a camera, snap some lovely photos, and depending on the rank of the photo, taking composition, angle, and all that into account, you get a boost to your catch rate for that Pokemon's evolutionary line. I'd love to be able to whack out a first-person view and see Pokemon mingling in the wild, and then to be rewarded for it? I literally couldn't ask for any more. With that in mind, here's everything else that I want. A big old thing for me that I feel has been lacking for quite a while is gym battles, specifically with the gym leaders. Sword and Shield did manage to bring some gravity to them with the Dynamax feature and the setting, but it was still often too easy to absolutely annihilate them without artificially limiting your party or something. This is an easy fix. Every time you go into a gym, your Pokemon's levels are capped, just like in online battles. Not only would this make gyms significantly more challenging, but it would force you to rethink your approach rather than simply over-leveling your Pokemon, but without arbitrarily stopping you from doing so for the rest of the game's world. You could be absolutely decimating the local wildlife, but then when you go into a gym, boom! Your level's brought down and you're forced to do something that is actually a challenge rather than just mincing through it. What's more, the gyms could also expand upon the big, wide open world and be beaten in any order. Let's say you ignore Gym A and go right for Gym D. You've still got no gym badges, so the leader would select a pair of weaker Pokemon, let's say between the levels of 15 and 18, with the level cap of the gym being 20. But if you walk in there with 3 gym badges, they pick 4 Pokemon between the levels of 40 and 43, with the level cap at 45. Real talk, I largely pulled those numbers out of the ether, so don't go telling me that a fourth gym shouldn't have the Pokemon at that level or something. I I just pulled the numbers out of nowhere. And isn't it about time we chucked out the idea of monotype gyms? There are so many other interesting ideas that could be employed, such as a gym leader that uses only big Pokemon, or yellow Pokemon, or mid-evolution Pokemon, or fluffy Pokemon. The scope has the potential to be far more varied and far more interesting than it currently is. Why on earth can't we unlock the ability to carry more Pokemon in our party? Now, I'm not talking about more than 6. I mean starting out with perhaps, maybe maximum of 2, and slowly unlocking more and more slots as you progress through the game. Maybe even have them as simple to find but completely optional. Can you imagine having to Google how to have more Pokemon in your squad? Oh, glorious. Oh, and that Pokemon level capping thing that happens in gyms? Well, what if the primary antagonist has a hacked version of the same device that doesn't affect their own Pokemon and is cranked to 11? Think of the first time you bump into Giovanni or whoever the main antagonist is, and instead of calling the police or doing something sensible, you challenge them to a Pokemon battle as is standard, and all your Pokemon are immediately tanked right back down to level 10 for the duration of the battle. You then essentially are forced to lose, and the game makes a note of that and it becomes part of the plot or something, or maybe you can just use crazy tactics to overcome him using status effects and clever use of held items. Now that's an imposing battle. Cutscenes and NPC interactions are also painfully underutilized. The few instances that appear in Sword and Shield are glorious, drastically expanding the feel and the depth of the world, making it seem much more alive and rich. It is frankly criminal that there aren't more of these in games as massive as the mainline Pokemon games. The post-game in recent entries has been a little bit not necessarily bad, just like the rest of the game's content, but definitely lacking a hell of a lot of longevity. Well, what about the idea that when you become the champion of the region, you become essentially lord and master over all the gyms in the land, switching up the available Pokemon so long as they remain within the same theme, and then you can have the fun of trying to battle through your own creations to prove your worth as a champion. Better yet, NPCs that are fans in the region who like your changes could send you gifts of rare items and maybe, even just some money or some rare Pokemon in order to show their appreciation. And why stop there? How about a new gym in your hometown that you can create from scratch? You can set the theme, you can set the Pokemon that are in it, you can set the level cap, and that can be your own personal custom gym. Then you can head up your shiny new Champions gym to take on tough opponents with your own limitations in place, and even upload your gym to the internet for people to try out a la Super Mario Maker. Get a positive response from people online and you get great in-game stuff. It's got loads of potential. That's a fair point. Pokemon is supposed to be accessible and not everyone wants a crippling challenge going into it, but there's an easy solution to that. You know what I'm gonna say? Hard mode. Game Freak did have a pop at this in Black 2 and White 2, but there's so much more they could do. Let's say when you get your Pokedex for the first time, you're given a choice. Do you want to take the Rotom Dex with all its new fancy whiz-bang features, or do you maybe want to take your mum or dad's old Pokedex that has lost its battery backup? Professor Fig or whoever can easily update it to be able to register more Pokemon, but it'll never be able to, for example, tell you which of your moves will be super effective against enemy Pokemon like the Rotom Dex can. It can't distribute XP to your entire party. The level caps are stricter in gyms. It doesn't ever give you any hints on the gameplay or holds your hand. The list is endless. Whilst there are some elements in this video that I would really like to be implemented across any difficulty mode, I do concede that I'm not the only person with an opinion and indeed an idea of what would make a good Pokemon game, so, yes, there is the argument that us older lot, when we were children, we managed to work out Red and Blue and have a really good time with it, but that's not a reason to mean that accessibility shouldn't be considered. More than that, not everyone will necessarily want to go into a new game and be heavily challenged. Some people just want to go in and have a breezy, enjoyable time, and I don't think those people should be discounted, even if indeed it is a mode that I personally wouldn't choose. And that about sums it up. Yeah, I know it's not a simple thing, but at the end of the day, we're talking about fixing the Pokémon series. It's never going to be simple, and it's a laundry list, and it's a wish list, a mad, crazy idea that realistically is not going to come to pass. So, of course it's not going to be simple. It's me! But that's enough about what I think. What do you think? What do you think the Pokemon mainline series needs to really inject it with a bit more vigor? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you insist that that subscribe button should really be the Dark Souls of all subscribe buttons? And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.